Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode will be the new lawyer, and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, which is a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Matthew Stein. He is a partner and owner of Law Stein Anderson in Irvine, California. And Matthew represents clients who are entangled in probate litigation, including the contests of wills and trusts and breaches of fiduciary obligations, trustee wrongdoing, and claims of elder abuse. So welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Matt, that's a long list of related practice areas. How'd you get to the law in the first place?
That's a good question. I didn't grow up thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. I grew up thinking I wanted to be a professional soccer player. And so for me, I've always been drawn to intensity competition, to argument. You can ask my parents, high stakes situations with lots of pressure. And I found that if you can't be a professional athlete, you can be just as good in the courtroom. And so for me, it was like a magnet. As soon as I started taking some law classes in undergrad, I knew I wanted to be a trial attorney.
Gotcha. So of all the practice areas that you could choose from, what made you go down this path?
The trust litigation path. I was very close with my grandmother, and watching her lose capacity over the years, I saw vulnerability change. I saw the dynamic around money and decision-making change. I saw how easily people were trying to pressure her into making decisions financially. And it really made me angry, really pissed me off. I was not okay with it. And that experience stayed with me. As I started practicing law, I realized that there weren't a lot of really good trial attorneys protecting the elderly, protecting people who had diminished capacity. And so I find that trust litigation sits between family, money, grief of loss of loved ones, and power. And it's a human element of the law, which really resonated with me. And I'm very proud to say I've been doing it for over 20 years.
So, you see the trials and the tribulations of the natural order of, every one of our lives. And you see some potential misdeeds for those that have been entrusted in, what is super important work, being an executor, being an executrix, being a trustee. How does that show itself in the court, and how do you resolve those matters?
Well, I find that a lot of these issues, you got to peel the onion back and kind of put on your psychology hat and figure out why did your brother get removed from the trust, or why is your dad only leaning on your sister to handle all the financial stuff as he gets older? You have to really understand the family dynamics, which each family's they're all different. And so the more that I can kind of put on that psychology hat and figure out why this family is made up the way they are, the more that I can help. I can figure out that a lot of the times that the money, the house, the assets are really not the issue. It's the love, it's the holidays, it's the family interactions, figuring out the intent of mom and dad before they started to lose capacity, is really sort of I would say the guts of trust litigation, and what you have to really understand to be able to resolve these matters.
And why is the courtroom the place to do it?
I hope it's not. I don't want to do it in the courtroom. I want to avoid the courtroom at all costs. The courtroom, I always tell people, once we go to trial, it's too late. It's out of my hands. Here in California, in the probate courts, it's just a judge. There's no jury. So you're hoping that judge likes you. You're hoping that judge, is understanding the facts. And so you want to start all of this way before the courtroom. You want to start this in the living room. You want to understand why the family's upset with each other, and this person doesn't feel like they should be getting as much as this person, whatever the issues are. Because once you get to court, it's just too late. It's really.
What if you can't fix it? What if it's unfixable? You have to litigate, and that's the way it goes. Where do the funds come from to make the client whole, to get you paid, to, whatever the case may be. There may not be a third party.
Right. And so, and unfortunately, we go to trial. We have to be in front of a judge, and we have to show the evidence, and we have to show the other side's, fraud, or their elder abuse, or their undue influence. We have to show they took advantage of the elderly. And it doesn't feel good to lay it all out there, because it looks terrible. It really does. And the judges don't like it. But it's the facts, and it's the truth, and it's people's legacies that we're fighting for. And I enjoy it. It's what I love to do, being in that courtroom. But if I can't avoid it, and it's the best thing for the client to avoid it, that's all that matters.
So if you have, the country has 10,000 people retiring a day, which means that demographically your business is going to grow over time before it slows over time. So your kids, if they take over the firm, will be busy for quite a while. What advice would you give to avoid having to go to Law Stein and Anderson? What are some helpful tips to keep peace, to keep an executor, an executrix, or a trustee operating the way they should? Can you give some pointers in that area?
Yeah, I can. And we do this for some of our families and clients. We try to have family meetings in which we are asking the family members and the trustees and the fiduciaries to be transparent. Let's talk about what's going to happen when mom and dad pass. Let's talk about what happens before they lose capacity, so that if there are issues, we can resolve them now. If my sister is getting the jewelry, but I really wanted it, I can talk to mom now, because mom has capacity and mom's going to explain to me why my sister's getting it. Those seem to avoid litigation almost 100%. The families that are transparent, the families we hear a lot of the older generation saying, don't worry, I've got everything taken care of. You just need to reach out to my estate planning attorney when I die, and it will all be taken care of. And then when we read the will, it's like, this is not at all what I thought. This is terrible. So in order to avoid that, have family meetings, be transparent, let everybody know who's going to be the successor trustee, who's getting what, so that if they're not okay with it, they can talk about it now.
Great advice. So, by the way, before we wrap up, Matthew, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, either, the takeaway for the older parent that's about to, wrap up their estate plan, or for the adult child that is about to, start asking their folks some different or difficult questions, what would that takeaway be, or what would those takeaways be?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you asked me that. I think one of the issues people think is my kid will be my successor trustee. My kid will, or my kids will come in and they'll organize everything and they will distribute all the assets. I urge people to think twice about having your children as your successor trustees. You're setting them up for lawsuits. You're setting them up to fight. If you can find a third party, somebody else who's a professional trustee or professional fiduciary, to step in to manage the assets, that does not have a personal interest in it, you will save your family from litigation, from fighting. They will all have a joint person to point at, that new trustee, and they will stay together. And that's the most important thing. Is trust litigation, I find, is not all about money. It's about fairness, legacy, keeping the family together.
Great counsel. By the way, I'd like to thank my guest, Matthew Stein of Law Stein and Anderson. Matthew, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Sure. Thank you, Andrew. Telephone number 949-501-4800. My email address is mstein@lsalawyers.com. And our website is lsalawyers.com.
Perfect. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And if you're an attorney or knows one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew.